Greetings and salutations, everyone.
Okay, this is something of a response video to this one, which I watched not that long ago. Saying the quiet thing out loud. Be a nice concept if anything was actually said. So, this video is basically a take on how gamers tend to, what's the best way to phrase it? Abuse their status by playing games and then complaining about them afterwards. However, the problem seems to be that this person either doesn't play a lot of games or doesn't understand how the industry is supposed to work. I'll continue on to give you a brief example of why I think that way.
Tis I, God of Knockers, and today I'm presenting you with a lovely video presentation by yours truly called Saying the Quiet Thing Out Loud. When it comes to video games, over time, there are two common phrases gamers will start saying a lot. It's too repetitive, and it's too grindy.
Incorrect. The two most common phrases gamers will start saying a lot if a game is good is, I love this game, and I can't stop playing it. So the concept that it's too repetitive and it's too grindy only usually applies when the game is bad. As in, it's either incomplete, poorly optimized, or in some cases, not finished. Because if you only have 4 areas in your entire game, and those 4 areas only contain the same things over and over and over again, and there's nothing else to do but those 4 things over and over and over again, it's too repetitive and it's too grindy. Well, more precisely, no, it's not too grindy yet. That's a different subject. It's too repetitive because all you're doing is repeating the same actions over and over again. It's too grindy comes in when you have something like loot drops, with extremely rare loot drops requiring hours of continuous repetitive gameplay to acquire. Then it becomes too grindy because you are trying to get something and it takes hours upon hours of repeated actions to get that thing. Now, an interesting thing to note is there actually is a very particular game this person is referencing with these comments. I'm not going to mention that game as of yet, because I actually do like that game, but what this person is trying to say is that anyone who is saying these things is essentially taking out frustrations that are undeserved. Unfortunately, I have played this game, and the frustrations are absolutely deserved.
Now, if you're the type of person who's actually saying one or both of these phrases, well, I would like to tell you that you are in fact 100% correct. Kinda.
It's the kinda part that's gonna get you. Because wait until he explains why it's kinda.
You see, when you say these two phrases, the following happens shortly thereafterward. You blame the devs for the grind and repetition and start to hate the game or the devs for making you feel this way. It starts to feel like it's a complete waste of time. It's just something that you're just doing and getting no joy out of. Doing these two things, however, is projecting your feelings, and it's fine to do.
No, it means the devs have created a bad game that needs to be optimized and improved. You see, we blame the devs when they don't do anything about it. This is especially true in early access games, where you post a comment saying, hey, you only have 4 areas in this game. Is there going to be anything else? And then the devs just go silent and say nothing. That causes a problem, because that's when you start to hate the game / devs, because now you're not getting a response to a valid question. Is there more? You have enjoyed the content that exists. Where is more? So, yeah, it's not projecting your feelings the same way he's posting it as. What he's trying to claim is that you're just projecting your feelings at the devs and it's not their fault, it's yours. That's not the case. You invested your time and energy into playing this game. You enjoyed the content that existed. But if the content that existed only consists of a very small fraction of a game, then it's not fun anymore. Because you're basically only playing a tech demo. That's not a real game. That's a demo. And I'll be blunt, demos can be great. I played the original Wolfenstein demo, and I played that game to death. I played it over and over and over again. The only problem was I couldn't get the original Wolfenstein because it was out of my price range. I did, however, get Doom. These are examples of where what he's saying are completely false. Repetitive can be good if it's an enjoyable experience. Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 3. These are all games that just repeat the same content over and over and over again. But how that repetition of content is handled is completely different. Diablo solves that problem with procedurally generated maps, basically, you have the same levels, but each map will be completely different. That is great gameplay for a game that only has a few areas. But if that's your whole gimmick, even that's going to get boring. Diablo fixes that by giving you unique enemies and something to do during those times. Not everything's going to spawn at the same time. There are reasons to replay. The game in question that he's talking about and making these references to doesn't have that. Once you get something from it, you no longer have to worry about getting it anymore. You're done. There's no reason to create the other character types because they add nothing content-wise to the game. That will be brought up later. Let's continue on.
As a matter of fact, your feelings are 100% valid, and no one is to blame. You are, in fact, aware of the actual problem, but this problem is you're approaching it incorrectly. So, what is the actual problem you're having? Simple. When you say it's too repetitive and or it's too grindy, what you are actually saying is, I'm bored.
Ooh. Ooh. Ow. If you are playing a game and you get bored of it, then the game itself is the problem. I hate to say this. If a game has so little variance that you can play it enough to get bored, then the game itself is a problem. I have played Diablo 1. Diablo 1. It is 2025 when I'm making this video. Diablo 1. I will load that game up today and play it again. Today in 2025. Diablo 1 is an old game. I will play it today in 2025. That is how good that game is. And I have played every way you can imagine. And I still love playing it because the game is that good. I will play Diablo 2 because that game is good. I will play Diablo 3 because that game is good. I hate the storyline, but I love the gameplay. The gameplay makes up for the storyline. If you are getting bored with a game, it means the game is not very well made. This only applies to single-player games designed to be played through once. It is not for online games. It is not for games under continuous development. It is not for games that have intended storylines. It is for games that only have a singular track and you cannot do anything different with them. A prime example of a game you can get bored with as it continues is Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact had a serious problem. When it was initially released, it only had 2 areas. Mondstadt and I want to call it Leowin, but it's Liyue. Those 2 areas could be completed incredibly quickly. This led to a problem of players complaining there wasn't enough content. Now you have 6 of the 7 main key areas already released, and they are still releasing more. To those who power game, it's going to get bored and old really quick, but to those who play casually, the game and the storyline will continue because they still need to build up to the point where they can combat everything effectively. Different play styles, different players. I am a casual player. I play Genshin Impact. So I have personal experience with this kind of problem. I have gotten bored playing Genshin Impact because the game itself didn't have anything new. But the difference is, updates are always continuing. New events, new story elements, and new stuff is constantly being added. Not everything is a great addition, but a lot of it helps continue reinvest the players. If a game developer adds nothing to reinvest the players, they will get bored. So this, once again, falls back to the devs not investing in their game. Let's continue and see why he thinks that I'm bored is the main problem.
Yeah, I made sure to put that in big bold letters for you so you don't miss it. Yeah. Let's move on to an understanding of grinding and repetitiveness. These are some things that happen all the time, but you're completely unaware of it. So let me break it down for you. Everything, and I mean everything, has a repetitive grind. Your work, your daily routine, cooking recipes, hell, even going to the bathroom have a repetitive grind.
Which is one of the main reasons we go play video games, to break up the repetitiveness of life. Because video games are designed for escapism, to be something you are not and cannot become. So that being a justification for being bored with video games is the exact opposite of what video games are intended to represent. Next.
Every game that has ever existed has a repetitive grind. It doesn't matter if it's a physical card game or a game of sports like football, baseball, hockey, soccer, whatever you got going on. It doesn't matter if it's a tabletop game and a digital, i.e. video games. All of these games, even the first game itself, have a grind and repeat.
Yes, but they were fun. They were an escape. They allowed us to enjoy ourselves without having to have something hanging over our heads. That statement, this one in particular, completely misses the point of this up here. Yes, your daily, all this stuff is true. We play video games, repetitive video games, to have an escape from that by doing something different, by doing something unique. If your video game or card game or tabletop game just tells the same story every single time, you'll get bored of it. Because you want something fresh, you want something new, you want something enjoyable. Diablo solved that with its procedural generation. You won't get every quest in the same playthrough. Diablo 2 reversed that decision by giving you repeated quests that you will get in every playthrough, but you also don't have to do them, because a lot of them are optional. There are only about 4 that are main quests in each area. Everything else is optional. You, in all reality, don't have to rescue Deckard Cain. You can abandon him and leave him in the town. The rogues will rescue him later as part of the storyline, but he will charge you to identify things. This is the Diablo 2 reference. They put in the game things that change things if you don't do them. This is something that is a problem with games and developers when they just try to put out a product. If you're just putting out a product, you're not going to put out the best you have. You're going to put out something that gets the job done. And we're not playing video games for something that gets the job done. This is where a lot of AAA games have started to fall flat, because they're not putting out games to be fun, they're putting out games to push a product. The Fallout series has fallen into this trouble. The Elder Scrolls series has fallen into this trouble. If the game's not fun, we're not going to continue to play it.
It's just a common factor of everything. You see, oftentimes, we are creatures of habit, people who consistently follow a routine and prefer the predictability of established behaviors over novelty or change.
Ow. Oh, this is painful to read. This statement is so the opposite of what game developers employ to make their games functional. Because if that was true, if we are creatures of habit who consistently follow a routine and prefer the predictability of established behaviors over novelty and change, then this entire video is meaningless. Because we won't complain about things being different. We will complain when things are different. We won't complain about there being a lack of change. We will complain about people changing things. This is the exact opposite of everything this video was posted to mean. This one statement undermines the entire concept of his video. Because if this statement is 100% true, then this video is pointless. He manages to assuade that by adding oftentimes we are creatures of habit, but if that's true, then why is this video even existing? The thing is, as I have stated before, we want video games to escape reality. We want movies to escape reality. We want to have fantasies we can put ourselves in to be the hero of. The problem isn't consistency or change. The problem is imagination. If you lack imagination, then all of this is irrelevant. Because you will just be a creature of habit who consistently follows a routine and prefers predictability. You will not want change. You will not want to see things differently. You will just do. So, yeah, this one statement is probably the worst thing that could be on here, although it's actually, ironically, not the worst thing he could put on here in relation to video games. This is just life in general that this is a problem.
In other words, we crave routine. We crave a pattern, a sequence, if you will, a way of doing things. It's just our nature. And because of that routine, we just get bored with it over time. It's a common phenomenon, and it happens to everyone, myself included. Playing and doing the same thing over and over in time will eventually bore us and desire change. And in some cases, after a while, if that change doesn't happen, we'll most likely complain and rant about the routine, which just makes the people who are bored angry and jaded.
No duh. Like says, the problem with video games in particular is that if the game is finished and sold and it turns out to be boring, we will be upset that we invested time, energy, and money to something that is boring. So, yes, we will complain and rant about it, because we wanted this to be good. But instead, what we got is basically a sleep therapy. Something boring and irrelevant. I'm playing Planet Crafters. That is a very boring game. It is designed for each planet to effectively be played through only once. But because of how you can play the game, you can play it over and over and over again, changing things as you do so. You can build your base in different locations. You can collect resources. The resources you want to find may not spawn at the exact time you need them, so you'll have to build things differently. Planet Crafters ultimately will be a very boring game, but it is designed to be played once for the story, and then the rest of the time you are playing it just to play it, to experience that process again, to get your dopamine, basically. Just seeing a world turn from a barren rock to a lush paradise through your efforts can be more rewarding than defeating some demon overlord. Another game that is a prime example of boredom made manifest if you play it wrong is Space Engineers. Space Engineers, if you just play the game as someone going out there and just playing it, you'll get bored of it real quick because there's nothing to actually do. There's no story, there's no character development. You literally just go out there and build stuff. That's it. That's the whole premise of the game. That is boring as all get out if you have no imagination. I built a massive starship in that game. It has taken me years to build that ship. It is one of my primary investments in that game. I have been developing it with each new patch, adding more to it, modifying things. I have spent literal years working on this, and I love it. I'm not bored with Space Engineers because they are still adding to Space Engineers. When they stop adding to it, and it becomes a case of I'm locked into what I already have and can add nothing more, I will eventually grow bored with it, because now there is no place for change. That is when I will move on to play Space Engineers 2 once it has come out of its alpha stage. But as long as they are still making content for Space Engineers 1, I will go back to it and continue to play. That is the difference. Added content? No added content. Because playing and doing the same thing over and over again is really, really a bad way to play any game. Like, take Skyrim, for example, a primary example of playing and doing the same thing over and over again, stealth archers. It's become a meme. Stealth archers are a meme. Every playthrough, you will become a stealth archer because it's just better. Magic, too slow. Oh. Swords, gotta get too close, and they can hit you back. Stealth archer, one-shot kills, doesn't matter who or what it is. But just because it is a meme doesn't mean that it's not fun doing that. Sneaking up on an enemy who is completely unaware of your existence and killing them with a bow is still fun. That's why it's a meme and why everyone keeps doing it. Because it's practical and effective. But that doesn't mean you can't do the other stuff. You could just as easily become a berserker charging across the battlefield, smacking things with a sword, as long as you got your enchanting and smithing high enough to basically render the enemies impotent. But let's continue on and see what other wonderful observations this person has.
So how do we solve this problem? Well, allow me to permit you the solution.
Play a game that's fun. His solutions don't solve the problem at all. They're just stuff that someone who's bored of the game has already done. That's kind of the problem. That's why you're bored with it, because you've already done all of these things, and nothing changed. I'm specifically referencing the game this person plays, where they are the most commonly known.
Do something different.
When you only have 4 areas to explore, and all of them are smaller than a single level on Diablo 1, there's not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah, seriously.
Especially when they don't change or reset. The only exception to this rule is the extremely linear battlefields that take place in strongholds. They are monodirectional. They only have a start and an exit. Nothing changes, and most of them are usually only a couple of meters in their entire range. And they only have one combat zone per level. So you go in, you fight one small group of monsters, you move on. It's literally the basis of the game Dungeon Builder or Dungeon Crafter, whatever the heck it was called, where you can send people in to one level, put 3 monsters in it, and they'll be happy with it. I was happy with it when the game was first deployed. Not Dungeon Crafters, but the game he's talking about. I enjoyed that. The levels were randomly generated. They could be different each time, but the problem is they are consistent in only being a single short battle that you can complete in a matter of seconds if you're built correctly, and you will be built correctly within a matter of hours in playing this game. You can literally have a fully built character in a few hours of playtime that can just go in and one-shot all the enemies. And the worst part is, every character in the game will follow that pattern. Not because it is effective, Not because it is the best one they can have, but because there aren't enough options to make it worth your while to do anything else. Every other skill basically plays exactly the same. Area of effect spell, single target spell. That's it. They are visually different, but you can't swap them on the fly. So you have to build a character and then use those skills. And the problem is each skill requires specific investment, and once they're invested in, you don't want to waste time changing to a weaker skill to invest in that one. You will pick a skill, invest in it, and then you're stuck with it. Once you reach the point where you can invest in these other skills, you'll then simply pick the most powerful ones of the group and recycle them. That's it. It's not even a case of optimizing or metas. It's a case of this one has higher damage numbers, this one's better. And the game is developed to where that's not even a contest. You have single shot spells which hit multiple times or multiple enemies in a straight line, and then you have area of effect spells which hit a bunch of enemies in a wider area. I've tried several different combinations, and there's some that just outperform any other skill in that same build range. So once you have the options to do so, and you find these spells or skills or whatever you want to call them that are just better, you're instinctively going to gravitate towards the just better. When you build a new character, you're going to build that character with those skills or spells in mind. And it's going to become a problem because there is not enough diversity or even enemy resistance types to make it worth your effort to deviate to something different. Unless you are trying to build a specific character with specific abilities, there is no valid reason to change. And the game does not give you an incentive to do so, as every character plays exactly the same.
Do something different. Just as with any routine, it can become stale, so you have to change it up. This doesn't mean you cannot critique or voice your opinions. You can and you should, but just don't dwell on it.
Just don't dwell on it. If the problem is consistent across every playthrough of the game, how can you not dwell on it as long as you play the game? When a problem is that consistent that it shows itself every time you play the game, that's bad game design. That is literally a game that is almost unplayable in terms of how it should be treated. Because you're going to dwell on it because it's going to crop up every time you play.
Alright? Because it makes you look like a whiny bitch ass, and nobody likes a whiny bitch ass.
And this response right here shows exactly this person's thinking process, and why this entire video is completely irrelevant. This is not a good way to present a point, because it doesn't address the issue of just don't dwell on it. It just says, if you find this problem constantly and report it constantly, you're a whiny bitch ass, and you shouldn't do that because being a whiny bitch ass is bad. So basically, this person just insulted anyone who was trying to gain anything useful from this video, and proved that they have no idea how to actually solve the problem. They provided nothing in the solution. Do something different. That's not a solution. That's not an issue that can be solved. It's not about you doing something different. It's about poor game design limiting the options you have to do something different. It's about poor storytelling making it irrelevant to do something different. It's about stale character design, which makes it nearly impossible to do something different. In an RPG, a role-playing game, you will build a character based on a personal preference. You will pick skills that may not be good because they fit a character design in your head. If a game doesn't give you an option to play a role beyond basically, I am blunt force trauma, then every time you play as blunt force trauma, you will get more and more dissatisfied with basically playing as blunt force trauma. Well, I want to go in there with a spear. Well, sorry, you're not allowed to use spears. We didn't implement spears. Subtle little jab at Morrowind versus is Oblivion and Skyrim. Or, well, I want to use an axe. Okay, you can use an axe. By the way, it classifies as a blunt weapon. Why are axes blunt weapons? It's an axe. It's a sharpened axe. If it's a blunt axe, it is a hammer. Why did Oblivion classify axes as blunt weapons? Oh, I know, because they didn't have enough of them. Because they didn't add staves as blunt weapons, which Morrowind had. But this undermines the entire argument this person's making.
Yes. Holy shit. But here are some things you could do differently. Change the way you play the game by trying things you never did in the game before. If there are some side quests, do those. If there are achievement hunts, go for those as well.
If you're bored with the game, you've done all this. That's the problem. That is the entire emphasis of being bored with it. I have done everything that the content allows me to do. I need something new, something more. That's what being bored of it is. If you're just playing for the main storyline, of course you're gonna get bored. Because once you complete the main storyline, it's over. You're done with it. This statement is absolutely irrelevant to the point he's trying to make.
Etc., etc. Challenge yourself.
This again, if this is all you have left in the game, then it's boring. Because you've already played on the highest difficulty and won, so your characters are overpowered. No death runs, okay, you already know all the optimized builds to make a perfect no death run that literally can collect everything on the first run. So you're done. Speed runs. Well, if you've already done these two, this has already been accomplished.
Speed runs, higher difficulty, no death runs. These are things that you can do. You don't even have to make it an official speed run. It could just be something that you want to do just to change things up. Most importantly,
I already covered this problem. Metas exist because they make it impossible to not play them. They make it to where it is a problem if you don't play them. If you are not optimized using a meta build, you will not be successful at playing the game. If you are doing speed runs, higher difficulties, or no death runs, you will try to build a meta build that you have seen someone use to do exactly these things. So that literally undermines the two things that happened before. Change the way you play the game. Stop running metas. Literally the same comment.
Stop running metas. Avoid that shit. Metas are terrible because they lock you into a linear way of playing a game with zero deviations, so you end up getting bored sooner and faster. Fuck that.
Well, no duh. That's because metas trivialize the game. They allow you to play the game with zero effort. That is why they are meta. Again, if you are playing an RPG, an actual role-playing game, then you will build your character based on the character themselves, not the meta. You will find meta skills for each character. Skills that just outperform all the other ones, and you will use those every chance you get. But in a role-playing game, you are usually limited in what skills can be used as meta skills. And certain characters in fantasy role-playing games like Final Fantasy will come along that have better meta skills than your starting characters. It's a case of you will always find something progressively better. But that's the thing. Progression. The only way to stop meta builds is through progression. If you're building metas, then inevitably you're going to have issues. Genshin Impact solves the meta problem by the fact that you can't build a proper meta character. Certain people get really lucky and find perfect artifacts to build a meta version of that character, which outperforms anything anyone else can do with it. I have Mavwika. She does absolute crap damage because I don't have any good artifacts for her. She is the exact opposite of meta for me. I have Mualani. She does worse damage than my Barbara. Meta doesn't mean anything if you can't build it. Games where building a meta is easy are inevitably going to have a problem with meta builds. So this entire statement is, it's just absolute dog water. It's muddy, it's unclear, and it doesn't do anything differently. Because you will either A, inevitably fall into one because you harvested up enough resources to build a meta version of whatever it is you're doing, because that's what you were trying to do. Build the best version of whatever it is you're doing. So you can't really avoid a meta build unless you're intentionally hobbling yourself to build the most anti-meta build. This statement is absolute dog water. Just, it's terrible.
And last, but most importantly, just play a different game.
That is the worst advice you can give to any gamer. Oh, you don't like my game? Play something else. Okay, bye. Not playing your game anymore. Wait, why aren't you playing our game? Because you told me not to. But ours is a good game. Why'd you leave? because you didn't update it and didn't do anything to improve it. But that's not a good reason to stop playing it. I found a better game. Why would I continue to play your much worse game? This comment is terrible for gamers. It is the exact opposite of what you want to do to encourage gamers to do. You want them to invest in your game. You want them to keep talking about it years and years and years after after they played it. Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Skyrim, Morrowind, Oblivion, and Genshin Impact, etc. There are dozens of games. The Sims! The Sims, for crying out loud! You want people to continue to talk about these games. You want them to say, hey, I played this game back in 1994. It was a great game. Play this. You will love it. You do not want to say, yeah, that game was boring. I do not encourage you to play it. You will run out of things to do incredibly quickly. There's no reason to play it after a certain period of time. It's like a good 4-hour game. After that, you're done. Never play it again. Why would you encourage that? Why would you encourage people to give up on a game that they've invested in, that they liked for its initial concept? Why would you tell them, yeah, I know it sucks, stop playing it? That is terrible advice. That is a terrible thing you could do differently if you're trying to encourage people to like your game. If you're just saying, if the game sucks, don't play it, then you're effectively sitting there going, yeah, we didn't invest any effort into building this game. We just, started it and then kind of just abandoned it. It didn't really fit with what we were going with. Then why did you put it out there? Why did you make us invest in it? Why did you promise us this good game? Why did you encourage us to play it if you knew it was going to be bad? And why did you get upset when we pointed out that it was bad?
There are tons of games in your backlog and free-to-play games out there. Play those for a bit. Take a break from the usual. It's fine. Now, if at any point you're watching any of this and you're reading it or listening and you're thinking to yourself, oh, this is bullshit, this whole thing is bullshit, this is a scam, fuck this guy. If you're thinking that, there's something that's actually stopping you from even remotely considering these alternatives. And it's called fear of change.
No, it's called you're giving bad advice and nothing you have mentioned actually solves the overarching problem of a game being bad. All you've done is basically just sit there and be like, yeah, if you can't find a reason to play the game, just don't play it. That's not fear of change. That's terrible gaming advice. People have invested time, they've invested money, they've invested effort into enjoying these games. If you're just going to sit there and tell them, yeah, if you don't like it, don't play it, then why are you even making this video? You could have solved this entire video with a 1-second blurb of, if you don't like a game, don't play it. That ends your entire argument right there. It's everything you have put in this PowerPoint presentation in one phrase. Game bad, don't play. The thing about games being bad is they are a matter of opinion. It is not fear of change. It is, I am enjoying this game. I want this game to be good. I do not want to have to find another game because it took me a long time to find this game. And this is a genre that is difficult to find others of. The game in question that this person is presenting is of a extremely niche genre. There are not a whole lot of games you can find that give you this kind of feeling, that allow you to have this kind of character creativity. So the problem isn't that you can't change, it's that there's nothing to change to in this same genre. And trying to find something else in this genre could take literal years. I have looked for other games in this genre. There's not a whole lot because it's not as popular a genre. The open world, well, pseudo open world, superhero game genre doesn't have a lot of content. There was City of Heroes, City of Villains. That game existed, but it wasn't very... It didn't have the content I wanted. It didn't allow me to create the characters I wanted to create the way I wanted to create them. But even that was better built than this abomination that he is trying to present as a decently functional game, which is very narrow in scope, very incomplete, still in the public test phase after something like 7 years. And yet, here he is trying to present a PowerPoint presentation about the fear of change and how you're being whiny if you're still talking about the problems the game has not solved after 7 years of development. Plus or minus a few years. I don't remember when exactly the game was released, and honestly, I really don't care enough to look it up right now.
It's a natural human tendency to feel uneasy or anxious about the unknown.
It has nothing to do with fear of the unknown. It has the fact that it is annoying to be promised something and then that promise be ignored by people who made the promise.
It's fine to feel like this. Alright? Not knowing what's coming is scary as hell, and more so when there is a change that's beyond your control.
This is life advice when he's trying to create a life advice video that makes him sound smart when all he's doing is basically copy pasting out of every book that has ever been written on this subject. None of this applies to the very topic he's been trying to present. Fear of change is not why people post that the game hasn't received an update in 7 months. Why was its last update nothing but a language update that has no content to the game other than something that most people weren't using in the first place? Why is fear of the unknown or fear of the change having any relevance when the devs refuse to post an update about what they're planning to do with the game and dismiss anyone's bug reports? That's not fear of change. That's not fear of the unknown. That's people getting annoyed because this person or this dev isn't doing anything.
When it comes to change, we want to be in control of it, and it freaks us out when that change happens on its own and outside our control.
Every update is outside of our control. That has nothing to do with fear of change. We want to know that the game is still being updated. We want the game to change. We want changes. But when the devs refuse to provide that, it's a problem. It means the devs don't care about the game anymore. It means they don't care about communicating on their own Discord about the game. And when anyone points that out to them, they ban them. Because you're contradicting your own statements. You're lying to us. And then you have someone like this come out and try and spin it as, no, this is all your fault for feeling this way. You are the problem, not the game that has very little content and devs who are refusing to communicate about the updates they promised us. No, that's not the problem. It's you who's the problem. Just shut up and play the game.
So if this video has made you change or question your perspective and you feel uneasy about it, or you're in full disagreement, that's why.
That is a very loaded statement. So, if this video has made you change or question your perspective, and you're uneasy about it or in full disagreement, that's why. Wow! Way to insult people indirectly. Basically, this person is implying that after watching this video, you're suddenly going to have an epiphany of, oh no, maybe I shouldn't have posted those 477 bug reports. Maybe I should have just let the devs move at their own pace and never brought up the fact that the character can fall through the world in this one certain area. Maybe I should have just ignored this report when they specifically requested my feedback, and I told them that the game really needs an update, and that the content is shallow and very inefficiently laid out. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have just shut up and accepted what they offered. Even though what they offered was an incomplete mess of a game that basically recycles assets that they bought offline and doesn't have any original content whatsoever. Except it does have original content, it's just really hard to find.
You're just afraid of change. And yes, humans are fucked up.
And there we go! Look, this video is basically an attempt at damage control to undermine anyone who wants to backtalk devs for basically not working on their game after they have posted it. When a free-to-play game stops receiving updates and people start complaining about that. When the devs go silent and refuse to offer any explanation as to what the future holds for the game. This is what this person falls back on. This is how this person runs damage control for it. By sitting there and saying, you're fucked up. You want something that shouldn't be yours. You fear the future of this game. Yes, we fear it. We justifiably fear it. The devs have gone silent. They're not posting any updates. They're not talking to the community anymore. They're just banning anyone who disagrees with them. It's an insult not just to the game they developed and posted and made available for people, but it's an insult to everyone on the internet who ever posted feedback about a game. There are always two sides to every story. There is the dev's vision and the player's vision. These two will almost never agree. If you post an incomplete game, you are opening it to the player's vision. The players will take that game and do everything they can to make it match their vision. The Fallout community, the Skyrim community, they did this through modding the game to bring it closer to their vision. Because the game itself is finished. The devs don't have to do anything else to it. Skyrim was sold to the public as a finished game. It is done. The modding community took that game and gave it years, now virtually decades, of continued playtime by updating it, increasing it, adding new content, adding new quests, all that content. Starbound was a game that was pushed out as finished. The dev basically just gave up on it. The modding community has taken Starbound and expanded upon it 100-fold. It is two completely separate animals now. The original content and the modded content, the modders have basically built a completely separate game within Starbound. The game this person is talking about has specifically banned mods. They have banned people who complain about the lack of content. They have not been posting updates to the game. They no longer are reaching out to the community and asking for actual feedback, because anyone with negative feedback, they get rid of. The only thing that applies to this is, yes, humans are fucked up because the devs are human too. They can absolutely screw you over by giving you a great concept, an amazing concept, a game that has a future, and then taking that future away from you by undermining everything that you worked hard to do with it.
So in conclusion, we all get bored. It happens. Don't be afraid to try something outside your comfort zone. And remember that variety is the spice of life. And for those of you who...
In other words, if the game sucks, don't play it. These three things literally can be summed up with that one statement. If the game sucks, don't play it. Go play something else. Find the game you want to play. Do not play games you don't like, or that are incomplete, or that the devs abandon, or that nobody cares about anymore. That's the real conclusion here. If you don't like the game, just don't play it. Give up on it. Abandon it. Turn away the same way the devs have. Now let's see what's for those who didn't pick up what I'm putting down.
Didn't pick up what I'm putting down? Shut your whiny bitch ass up and play something else.
This person if this person was a PR person, a public relations person, they would be fired on the spot. They are terrible at promoting any concept. This is literally the dumbest thing you could post. This person is a moron and really shouldn't be allowed to post videos trying to explain something. They are absolutely terrible at public relations and really, really need to stop trying to do public relations and damage control, because they are really damaging the brand they are trying to present as a good game. Any game that uses this person as a public relations person or allows them to post content referencing their game, look at this right here. Get to this part of the video. Look at what they are saying about your game. Look at how they are presenting your game to anyone else. Shut up and play something else. This person does not support your game or your content. This person is a problem for your game and your content. They will undermine everything you have worked for. Devs do not support this person. Do not allow them to undermine your game. I can't even understand why they would think this was appropriate under any circumstances to post. What moronic thought made them think that shut up and play something else was good advice when you are trying to promote a game? When people have legitimate viewpoints that need to be addressed by the devs, and this is what you tell them. I don't know what dev in their right mind would think this person had any good intentions for their game. That anything they post about their game would be a valid opinion, because they clearly have no concept of what a valid opinion actually is, of what addressing a concern actually is. This person is scary in how narrow-minded they are about what they are trying to present. This is terrifying if this is what the gaming community has to present as a spokesperson for any game ever. Shut up and play something else. I don't know where they thought or what made them think this was a good idea to post this video, but I really, really hope that the devs see this part of their video and just send them a massive email saying, never do something like this again. It damages our brand image that you are using. I don't have much else to say on this. This is absolutely terrible. This is the worst thing I have seen in a long time.
I like to think.
Yeah, do not go to this person. Go watch something else, because you've already seen the kind of thing they apparently, or how they treat people who have an opinion about a game that is not their own. Shut up and play something else. If you don't share my opinion, suck it. I don't share your opinion, God of Knockers. I want the games to be good. I want them to be enjoyable. I want the people to play the game and be like, I love this game. I would love to see a sequel to this game. Instead of, yeah, that game sucked. I'm going to go play something else. Do not attempt to do something like this abomination again if that's going to be your end post. Because you have just undermined the entire video by posting that as your ending takeaway. Everything you posted in this video that was correct has been undermined by your final point. That's all I have to say on the matter. Good day.